Genres are classifications of styles in music. Typically, they have defining elements like rock's electric guitars, loud drums and expressive vocals, or rap's rhyming lyrics and cultural influences. But depending on how far these artists bend these genres through experimentation, innovation, and stylistic alteration, you emerge under the subgenre umbrella. A few examples you might know are Illmatic by Nas, Music for Airports by Brian Eno, Thriller by Michael Jackson, and even Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Somewhere past this definition lies albums that hold elements of subgenres but form their own hyper-specific niches called microgenres, which is what I'd like to talk to you about today. I'd like to welcome you all to a worldwide...
Hello, I'm Bob Rock, and I'd like to welcome you all to a world beyond the mainstream.
Introducing Macintosh. It does all the things you'd expect a business computer to do. It does a lot of things you wouldn't expect a business computer to do.
Now, I'd like to tell you a bit about Vaporwave. Vaporwave is quite a difficult genre to describe as it isn't just a style of music. No, I mean really, here's a video of me trying to write this part of the script.
I don't know what to do.
So instead, I'd like to introduce you to someone.
I'm a father of two who lives in the suburbs and posts music on the internet.
This is Whitewoods. They're an American musician who's most known for their song Beach Walk, which was partially responsible for Vaporwave's overwhelming online presence in 2015. To my luck, they've been very helpful throughout the course of this project and has agreed to help me teach you a bit about Vaporwave. Now, I first started listening to music back in 2015 when Vaporwave was on the rise. Could you tell me a little bit more about Vaporwave?
Vaporwave. I didn't make it up, so I don't know what it means. But I do know that it is very specific and very generic at the same time. But the only thing that those two sides share in common is the idea of nostalgia. So I guess I'd say that nostalgia is the root of Vaporwave.
Upon further research, I was able to gather that Vaporwave is a really specific genre of music. It takes a lot of inspiration from the sounds of 80s music and media, and can vary from the slowed down, dreamlike atmosphere of Beach Walk by Whitewoods, to the more upbeat and lively sounds of Howling by Lupus Noct. Both of these songs, despite sounding completely different, take direct influence in the sound of 80s music. Fans of the genre have adopted a unique visual style to complement the music, which I would describe as a distorted view of 80s culture. It's loaded with pastel colours, reference to 80s electronics and software, Japanese and American media, and dreamy environments. And as a result of looking into each of these elements and my conversation with Whitewoods, I've realised that Vaporwave heavily plays into a feeling of false nostalgia. In early 2016, Vaporwave faced a decline in popularity online. Fans of the genre were speculating around the political messages hidden in the music. The biggest example of this was anti-consumerism, as a lot of the music mocked 80s media and advertisements. People believed that the creators behind the songs were trying to push their own political values within their songs, and eventually Vaporwave lost all of its audience because of the political ambiguity.
I'm not anti-consumerism and I'm not pro-consumerism. I think there's a healthy yin and yang to consumerism. There's a lot of parts of consumerism that I enjoy on a daily basis, and there are parts that, I could do without.
Personally, I don't think the debate around consumerism affected the decline of Vaporwave. Internet culture is constantly evolving and changing, and I think that the change of the internet along with the uncomfortable conversation around politics was the nail in the coffin for Vaporwave. What inspires you to make music?
playing, having fun, these are things I usually associate with music, so it doesn't take a lot to inspire me.
If you want to explore Vaporwave further, I strongly recommend the album Floral Shop, as it's a great introduction to the start of Vaporwave. Or instead you could listen to Whitewood's suggestion, Esprit.wave by Esprit. For my second genre, I'd like to talk about math rock. On the surface, it can look like a really daunting genre to get into. It has complicated elements like layered arrangements and unusual time signatures, but you don't need to understand it to enjoy the music. Personally, I don't understand the complexities of math rock, but I'd still consider myself a fan. And because of this surface level understanding, I've managed to have a conversation with the growing band Azar and Sedated to learn more about this complicated genre. Azar, it's great to finally be able to talk with you. Could you first tell me a bit about yourself and your band?
I'm Azar, and I'm in a band called Azar and Sedated. We're just a duo out of New Jersey. We write and record all the stuff ourselves in our rooms. It's like math rock, a little emo, a little indie. Yeah.
Alright, so now that we know a bit about you, could you tell us what inspires you to make your music?
Aside from other people's music,
Yeah.
what inspires me to make music is just like little things that I see, like, you know, just looking out my window outside, like the grass and like nature and trees and stuff. Like a lot of that seems kind of like boring and simple, but like a lot of that just inspires like the songs that I write and stuff.
Alright, now, could you tell us what math rock actually is? Because I've listened to it before, but I don't really know what defines it separately from just like other types of rock.
Math rock is a style of rock that is inspired by like sounds of indie and like alternative rock and stuff like that. The main reason it's called math rock is because of like the odd time signatures and the rhythmic irregularities that aren't as common in typical styles of music in typical genres.
Right, okay, yeah, I think I understand. So what would you say in math rock that you enjoy the most?
As a drummer, first and foremost, like I love just the technicality of how the drums are in those songs. Like it's really fun to play math rock songs with the drums and stuff. So that was really like the first thing that drew me to it. Bands like Toe or like American Football, they do a really good job of like making really complicated things sound easier than they are, and that's like one thing about the genre that I really like.
So for any new people that want to get introduced to math rock, would you recommend any specific songs or artists that they listen to as like an introduction?
Someone new to the genre, I would have them start with American Football just for the, you gotta. But aside from that song, I would probably pick the Clever Girl album, No Drum and Bass in the Jazz Room. Yeah, that one.
Let me set a scene. You're confined to your bed. You can hear the patters of rain surrounding your space. You're listening to a vinyl of 18th century harp, though only faintly. And despite your initial frustration being unable to turn the music up, you start listening to the harmony between the rainfall and the gentle, odd notes of the harp that surface the rain.
This experience is what inspired the musician Brian Eno to pursue and innovate the genre ambient.
His idea was that the music acted as a kind of background ambience and was quite calming, relaxing music, but something that wasn't really meant to be sort of focused on.
Ambient is a unique genre in music, because it doesn't necessarily follow the typical structure and rules of most music. It strays away from melody and rhythm, focusing more on creating atmosphere and tone. It encourages the viewers to actively listen, where the music becomes the soundtrack to whatever you're up to, instead of a focal point of entertainment. While Brian was pioneering the genre, he even stated that it must be ignorable as it is interesting, which captures his original vision of ambient, being music that is able to enhance your environment without the need for active engagement.
ambient artists these days they've still got the idea of a very sort of calming music, quite minimal, generally without any beats, generally without any vocals, although there are some exceptions. The artists these days are more about active listening, whereas Brian Eno, it was more of a kind of background sounds.
Okay, now don't fall asleep. Let's talk about something else. Microgenres. They take ambient and condense it into even smaller ideas, and they could really be anything from nature to horror, even noise. I don't get it, it's just the chorus. But my favourite of these albums is probably Everywhere at the End of Time, which is an audio representation of the deterioration of the mind throughout the early, middle and late stages of dementia. With each passing song, the album gradually crumbles into an incomprehensible amalgamation of sound depicting the true horrors of the disease. If you have 6.5 hours to spare and a box of tissues, I can strongly recommend it. Or if you want something a bit easier to listen to, I really recommend Adrian Lane's entire catalogue of music, which can be found on adrianlane.bandcamp.com. Or if you want a recommendation of someone who's got a better understanding of the genre, I listened to Adrian Lane's recommendation.
I mean, I would probably say I would go not so much for kind of true ambient but the more of the kind of neoclassical thing, which I think my music falls under a little bit more. But so artists such as Olafur Arnalds, who's an Icelandic composer, there's a particular album, Island Songs, that is one of my favourites.
Has anything stuck out to you during your time creating this project?
I mean, yeah, I'm quite surprised, to be honest, because in all the interviews I held, they all held a same negative sentiment about the broader mainstream music industry.
I think like the higher ups, the music higher ups, the man. They can't. I think they can't monetize the micro genres as well as they can the macro genres.
Yeah, I definitely think the mainstream has always been holding itself back. People listen to what is put in front of them. If you put a different style of music in front of them and market it the same way over and over again, just like they overplay, all the songs that are on the radio now, I really do think that people's tastes would adapt and would enjoy things.
Yeah, I mean, I think mainstream music over the years, I guess it is all about making money from it, and because of that there is a sort of a lack of experimentation or not wanting to take risks. There obviously there are exceptions where there have been bands that are maybe in the mainstream in the sense of being very well known, so bands like Radiohead, for example, who have really experimented and done things differently, but then at the same time you get a lot of the big mainstream artists today that there's not a lot of content to their music. It's just about how it's promoted and something that's sort of very safe.
No, I don't think anything is holding anything back from the mainstream. It's the mainstream that's holding itself back from evolving and changing.
I mean, mainstream music is a business.
I mean, yeah, I do understand that mainstream music is a business, but it kind of puts a limit on what most people listen to, which I kind of don't agree with.
Because when you're making what you want to make, and you're not making like a label says, oh, give us 2 albums by the end of the year, it sort of sucks a bit of the passion out of it.
If you at home listen to maybe a select few radio stations or like 1 or 2 playlists, I really urge you to look past the mainstream and to welcome the world of subculture sounds into your life. Thank you for watching.